Hi guys, so welcome back to part 2 of my 20 questions for 2000 subscribers video. So straight up with the next question. What was the hardest game you ever played that was fulfilling when you finished it? This was really tricky. I had to think hard about this question. I had to think about all the games I played and how all of them went. And then I remembered a fantastic series of games, and this no doubt was definitely one of the hardest games. Riven. Riven was the sequel to Myst, and if you don't know those games, just look them up. Riven was a game, and now I think about it, I'm definitely going to be putting it on my YouTube channel because it will suit the style we've got going on here perfectly. Riven is produced by a company called Cyan Worlds, and they produce these kind of high-rendered point-and-click games. And at the time, the graphics for Riven was epic for the PS, and at the time it was amazing, like so beautiful and so serene. And for me as a gamer, like everybody knows I like to be calm, and for me, perfect game. But it was bloody hard because the puzzles in it are really difficult. You have to write down things and note things and remember, and it's all about kind of logic puzzles and things like that. They're quite difficult, and I'll dig it out and we'll play it. But yeah, super hard Riven. The reason it was so fulfilling is because it was so difficult, and the puzzles, and you really felt a sense of achievement every time you unlocked just the smallest little thing, because you could spend hours trying to understand these puzzles, and then when you finally clicked it, it was amazing. And when you got to the end, that sense of achievement of I've completed all of this, I've done all the little puzzles, and it has a good story as well. Like the whole series of Myst and Riven, it's a really fantastic story. I wish that they would maybe consider updating it. They did do some later ones, they've done some updated ones, but still the same format. I would love to see whether they could try and do like the whole thing in one big game, like all the way through. It would be a big project, but I wish they would do it. It would be amazing. So for me, yeah, Riven. Why is your name Lutin? Well, okay, choosing a name, as everybody knows, is really, really difficult. And I always think that choosing a name for yourself online is just as important as choosing a name for yourself in real life, because it's something that you should stick with for a long time and it should represent you. So, for example, when I was in WoW, I had my name there. When I came over to console, I decided, okay, I'm going to go with a different name because it's going to be slightly different for me. Lutin is the name of one of my favourite tracks from one of my favourite bands, Underworld. Underworld are an electronic group who've been around for like a long time now. I'm sure many people know them. They are amazing. Underworld is just one of the best things ever. It's been a huge soundtrack to my whole life, really. And Lutin is just one of my really favourite tracks for many different ways. The way the music rises, falls, changes, the speed, the words, it all kind of comes together. You can look it up, just look it up on YouTube. But yeah, that's a simple reason why. It wasn't like I just couldn't think of a word for myself, it just seemed an appropriate thing, and that's what I think you should do. I definitely never want to have a name where I have any numbers or X's though, that's for sure. Okay, next one. Would you prefer Battlefield 4 or Battlefield Bad Company 3? For this one, I kind of just probably shrug my shoulders here. I'm not too fussed, whichever one they bring out is probably going to be fine by me. It's all Battlefield games, the same as all COD games, are going to be a variation on a theme, It's going to be more destruction, more guns, more multiplayer maps, and yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be an updated version of this, so whatever, it's cool for me. Who is your favourite protagonist from any game? This is another really difficult one when I'm trying to think back through like 15 or more years of gaming, going, Jesus, how many games have I played? How many people have I played in a game? I do have a habit of strongly disliking game protagonists though. There's not many that I usually identify with, mainly because they tend to be slightly dickish. They either have got a bit of an attitude or they're just stupid, which neither really works very well for me. Snake, I think, is going to be my choice. Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid. The reason is because he's basically Kurt Russell in a game, which is kind of cool. So yeah, no, Solid Snake. He's the ultimate soldier. He's a spy. He's special operations. He's like a commander. He's just, he's everything in one. And if only they would create some kind of amalgamation of him into more FPS games like Battlefield. If you could have those kind of abilities, give more tech into it and stuff. Oh, that'd be a great combo. I mean, people have talked about the Battlefield 2142. it'd be awesome. I mean, maybe I'd prefer that, I think, than another Battlefield 4 or Bad Company 3. I'd prefer a more updated, modern, techie version with a lot more kind of things going on. I think that'd be more fun, add some other elements into it. But yeah, Solid Snake, I mean, the whole series is like this epic saga, and it's so technical. It reminds me very much of, you know, Tom Clancy in terms of the detail and things that it brings there. But the spy espionage element is, you know, really great as well. The story, I think, is one of the much more dramatic, serious stories that's existed in gaming, and for that reason, I kind of identify and enjoy the character of him, you know, of Solid Snake a lot more, because of the way he, you know, is involved in that whole storyline itself. A lot more of protagonists in other games tend to be whingy, or they've got too much attitude because they're trying to appeal to a certain market. And I think because of the world which, you know, Metal Gear Solid is set in, that kind of narrative and character appeals to me much more. And so for that reason, yeah, I think Solid Snake is my choice for favourite protagonist. When will you stop gaming? That's the next question. I'd like to think I won't stop gaming. I'd like to think that, you know, games as a media will transition more into the mainstream, but still, you know, not compromise itself in doing so. I think as we go along as well, there's already a change in the style of game development. You've only got to look at things like Journey and things like this, more intellectual. I would like to see more games which have got a heavier storyline, something that really gets your teeth into, almost like a novel in a game. I would prefer to play through that. I don't know whether that's because of my age now, or just because of, you know, just because that's how the way I am. But I always like games with a lot of heavy story. I mean, you know, look at things like the Final Fantasy series. Some of those stories there are quite in depth. I prefer that kind of thing. I like to be able to get stuck into a story, so I'd like to see more of those kind of things. But I think as we go along, gaming will develop alongside all the other things that we enjoy, like music and film and television, all those kind of media based things. I don't think it's ever going to go away, and I think it's something that you can always do in your own, you know, in your own time. So I think the answer to when will you stop gaming will simply be, you know, when I have to, or maybe when I just get so old that I can't see anymore. Okay, next one up, what's your take on the constant level of complaining that's always going on about the patches, changing the patch, or just DICE in general? The first thing I want to say about that is it's not specific just to DICE or FPS. This has been existent always in multiplayer gaming. Just look at, you know, I'm going to have to reference World of Warcraft again, but you can look at COD or, you know, any game series that basically has a large multiplayer following. So that could be anything, really. And as I said to the guy who posted this really is worthy of a video in its own right, and I'm going to be looking to make a more detailed one. But my short version is that people should try to not complain so much, but I know that that won't happen, because people will always complain. But the thing is, you know, you've only got to look at things like USES 12 and all the rest of it. Now, the thing is, my fundamental principle is that you should try to adapt to how things are. I never see the need to constantly change. It does frustrate me. I understand things need updating in terms of games and stuff, and, you know, patches also, they do need to be updated. I understand it needs to happen, but it should only happen at the kind of bare minimum. People shouldn't try to force changes. I mean, that patch that DICE released recently was huge. It was so big, and I can't see that that's a good thing to do. The reason is that, you know, games are not real life, okay? They're not. And therefore, everything has a balance, and things have to be adjusted to make it enjoyable. Because if they made all the guns ultra good, or all the vehicles ultra good, then nobody would be able to really play. You'd just get destroyed. And then in doing so, it'd be no fun. It wouldn't be a game. It wouldn't be something that people wanted to do. People are often complaining that it's not realistic enough, or that it's too realistic, or that, you know, that's not how this thing would behave in real life. It's a game. It's never going to behave how things do in real life, because if they did, it wouldn't be fun to play, and it wouldn't work as a game. It wouldn't, you know, the whole dynamic wouldn't work. Battlefield, like any game, it's kind of like a microcosm. It's like, you could think of it like an ecosystem where everything has its own balance and its own place, and when you change one element, it has impact on everything else in a kind of knock-on effect. So if you make a massive patch with tons of changes, it's going to drastically alter, you know, the whole dynamic of the game, and it's going to cause problems that you wouldn't have been able to foresee, which is why it would make much more sense to make small changes, see how those affect things, and then it wouldn't be too difficult to change it. But if you put in place a gigantic patch, which is what they did, and put 100 or whatever changes, that's going to alter so many things that it's going to have a massive knock-on effect onto all sorts of different things. What people should learn to do is to, accept things for what they are and try to play them to their best ability. However, there's a but, and the but is they should do this provided one specific thing doesn't suddenly become, so overpowered that it becomes so dominant that it's the only thing people are using. And again, I'm going to use a slightly, nature-based thing. If you have a species or whatever which is doing so successfully, it will start to have a negative impact on everything else, and then that will then affect that species in itself. They would then, start to die off because they didn't have a food source or whatever. Think of that then in game terms. If everybody starts to use, let's just say the USAS-12, if everyone starts to use that shotgun so much that it has a negative impact on every game you play, everybody else is going to get so frustrated, they're just not going to play. They'll just get pissed off and bored. So in order to keep the game working, in order to keep it functioning and fun and everything, it means that things have to be slightly balanced out. And, people say, oh, well, why doesn't everyone just use it? Because they shouldn't have to, okay? The great thing about Battlefield is that it gives you this sphere of lots of different disciplines and actions and ranges. You're flying close quarters, medium, long range, vehicles or not, different objectives, different angles, maps, up on the hills, on the ground, in the air. There's all these different things going on. So when one thing starts to become dominant, it alters the fundamental dynamic of the game. And when that happens, you have to go, okay, this thing is not operating really as it should because it's having such a large impact on the game. It's changing the fundamental foundation of what this game is about. And when that happens, that's the time to make a change. But the important thing for people to remember is that not everyone is good at everything. Some people aren't so great with vehicles, some people aren't so great with the guns, blah, blah, blah. The great thing about Battlefield is that it gives you opportunity to do loads of different things. Even if you're not that great with guns or whatever, you can still be a valuable member to your team, providing you choose the playstyle that's correct for you. That's what's so great about Battlefield, is the broad spectrum of it, okay? But when one thing dominates, that is the time to make a change because it's imbalanced everything. So when we come to talking about the constant level of complaining, that's just a natural thing for people to do. People are never happy. Doesn't matter what they change, they won't be happy. It's always going to happen. But it's DICE's responsibility to responsibly put those patches in place. And I think to not change things too drastically, because when you do, you only have to look at the videos that I've been doing. It's very difficult for us to pin down some of the, the functions, the game dynamic that's going on with some of the, countermeasures, things like this in game. It's so hard for us to pin down because there's so many variables. So if you put in a patch of 100 things and suddenly something doesn't appear to be working, if you've changed so much of the game fundamentally, how are you going to be able to identify what's causing the issue there? If they made smaller patch changes and then suddenly people are like, wow, this has caused a massive change here, they would have less things to look at. But if they've made a massive change, it's going to be much more difficult. So in summary, basically, I think that, people should try their best to cope with the things as they are, okay? Unless it's causing you a huge issue and it's affected the game dynamic in such a major way that it's really worth changing, people should just try to learn to live with it. Like, for example, okay, they've changed the foregrip so that it actually has a kind of negative impact on your accuracy now. Now, that really doesn't make a lot of sense. It's pretty stupid, but the reason they wanted to do it was to stop everyone from using the foregrip. I can't quite understand the logic of the changes that they've made, but that's what they've done. But basically, the way it means is that, you not having the foregrip attached is in many ways a better thing now. And we've been testing this out, been running without a foregrip, and it actually does make your accuracy and stuff better. It makes you play a bit better. So there's an argument there to say, okay, maybe we should just learn to live with this. People do it, but I'm sure that they're probably going to make another change along the line. It's just how it goes. It changes. Some things change, some things stay the same. Okay, next one. What platforms did you play on so far, and will you stay with the PlayStation in the future? This is so many, and I haven't even bothered to research. I'm going to have to remember off the top of my head. What platforms have I played on? Master System, Mega Drive, SNES, Dreamcast, Game Boy, all the different versions of the Game Boy. I never had the Sega version handheld console up till recent. Then we're going to go from there to PC. Played PC pretty early on. PlayStation, N64, GameCube, PS2. Still with the PC there as well. Then I went on to Mac as well. There's some Mac games because I played World of Warcraft the whole way on through Mac. Then we're up to date with the PS3. Will I be moving away from the PS3? I don't think so, unless they make some massively negative fundamental change. I'll be sticking with the PS3. Why? Well, it suits me fine. That's where my gaming community is right now. I don't have the desire or the capacity to really change it in any major way right now. So yeah, I'll be sticking with the PS for the future. PlayStation served me well for all the years I've been playing with it. I think that Sony are a great brand as well for all the negativity that people give them. They've been around for a long time. They produce good quality stuff, and yeah, PlayStation for me. I'll be sticking with it. Okay, next one up. What's your favourite game of all time? What an incredibly difficult question. I desperately want to say Final Fantasy VII, but I can't say that. I have to say World of Warcraft. The reason I have to say World of Warcraft is because I said earlier, and because I've commented on it before in many ways to a lot of people that I know, World of Warcraft was a defining period for me in gaming. It lasted for a long time. I met a lot of people through it. I played a lot through it. There was a lot of blood, sweat and tears. I achieved a lot. I learned a lot. Gave a lot of myself in that game. It really was a dedication for me. It was, I put my heart and soul into it when I was playing it, and that has to be for me my favorite game. I'm not going to go into it in any more detail than that right now because, as I say, it's an epic tale for me to tell. If people want me to tell it, then let me know. I will go through it in explicit detail. But for now, yeah, World of Warcraft. Okay, here's a very funny question. Have you ever thought about taking part in competitive gaming? Have you ever played at a professional level or competitive level in any game? A lot of people in the last couple of years, whilst I've been playing FPS, have said to me, why didn't you play competitively? Because they say, oh, you would love it, blah, blah, blah. You love all the tactics and stuff, so you'd be, straight in there. There's a very good reason why I don't play competitively anymore, and that is because I have to come back to World of Warcraft yet again, and it's because it was a long thing for me. I played competitively for almost a year and a half, almost solidly, and it completely burned me out. I played that game harder than I've ever played anything before, and we were the top on our server. We were the elite squad on our server for World of Warcraft. We were unbeaten for, I think, an entire week's gameplay. Every single round we played, we won every day for 7 days solidly for 16 hours a day or something. It was ridiculous. I remember one of my best friends on that, Tinkerpan, she got Christ, I don't even know, I can't remember, but it was several million honor points for her week of grinding on that. We were getting very high, top of the game. I haven't played with anyone since who's been at a level which I would feel was dedicated or competent enough to be able to actually run anything. For me, if you're going to do something like that, it must be all or nothing. You have to give everything to it, or it's not even worth doing. So for me, in terms of FPS, I just haven't really felt that it's something that I really want to give that much of myself to. I just can't either. Right now, I don't have the time or the energy to be able to dedicate myself to it enough that it would be worth doing. I don't like doing things by halves. You either do it right or not at all. And I know that I can't give enough right now to be able to achieve what I would want to achieve if I was going to play competitively. So for me, that's why I don't do it right now, and that's why I don't get involved in things. Like, for example, this project PTFO or whatever it is that they're doing with Battlefield. They asked me to participate in that, and I said no. I don't want to participate in competitive things right now because it's just not for me. That's not where I am in my gaming right now, and I don't know if I will be again. So for me, I feel like I've achieved everything there is to with competitive gaming. When I was playing competitive with World of Warcraft, I was the #1 warrior on my server. I'd say we were almost unbeaten, and we were feared throughout. So I don't have anything to prove to anybody with that anymore. I feel like I've done everything there is to do in terms of competitiveness. So basically, competitive gaming, I think really I'm done with it. Like I've just said, for all the reasons I've outlined, it's just not for me anymore. good luck to everybody that wants to get involved, but my advice would be, if you're going to do it, give 200% to it, because otherwise anything less than that is just not enough. Okay, the next question up is from my gorgeous Iman, my girlfriend, and she wanted to ask me, what's your favourite Silent Hill game and why? And also, can you mention a few Let's Players that you enjoy? My favourite Silent Hill game, after much thought on it, is Silent Hill 2. The reason that I like Silent Hill 2 the most, and again, if you haven't played these series, you can still get them, you can still find them, you can look on YouTube, find the gameplay, they're worth a look, okay? Why is Silent Hill 2 though the best out of the series? Well, the first Silent Hill, it was pretty good, and it was definitely scary. It was definitely nice to have something that wasn't Resident Evil in that genre, which was kind of original. But for me, Silent Hill, the original one, it was amazing, but it still felt a bit unfinished. There was a lot of little bits that kind of could have been tweaked, as often is the case when a new game comes out. There's a lot of things going on. I mean, look at, for example, Killzone. Okay, Killzone, the first one, it's not so perfect. Killzone 2, awesome game. And I think that was very much the case here. Silent Hill 2, they refined things down, it was nice, they brought a new character, new stories. The characters in Silent Hill 2, we've got some great characters. James, the protagonist, you've got Maria, all of these different people around the town, and so really, really fantastic characterization and so on there. The music and setting was all, again, refined. I think that's really the kind of good summary of it, is that it's a nicely refined version of a great series. And then you move on to Silent Hill 3 and the other ones. Often when a series moves on, it can kind of lose its way a little bit, and I think that's the case again. So for Silent Hill 2, it sits perfectly. It's that great piece in the middle, and I think that's a good analogy for many games. There's many games where often that kind of middle one, you could apply it to lots of different series: Final Fantasy, Call of Duty, Battlefield. All these big series, they're kind of experimenting, changing, and that's what Silent Hill did, is any kind of series does, they change and experiment. Silent Hill 2 sits perfect in there, and that's pretty much where I'm coming from on it. But I think the main real success was the plot, okay? And I did read this, that basically with the first game they wanted to get the setting right, they wanted to create that atmosphere, and this is what I'm saying, that when they moved on to the next one, they'd got that atmosphere, they got that foundation in place, which meant they could focus on other things like the characters and the plot and the the music to get involved with, and all of these other elements. Much more focus on these things, which makes it a much, much better game. When it comes to favourite Let's Players, well, I don't watch Let's Play a huge amount, but the ones that I do enjoy, I'm going to have to mention Heartless, because he's a very funny Let's Player to watch. Super Go-Go Man, or Kim, that would be another one. His stuff is very, very funny to watch. He's done a really excellent Let's Play of Resident Evil 0, so look that one up. Really, really great stuff. I'm going to have to mention OTG, because otherwise I know Iman is going to kick my ass. OTG, he does great gameplays, lots of really awesome Let's Plays, really, really funny humour, and just fun stuff to watch, so check him out. OTG, Over the Gun. X is another guy that I like to watch. David R64YT, that's his channel. I'll link these all up. His stuff, again, it's very chilled out, his gameplay style and his commentary, it suits me really nicely. Really good stuff to watch there. Again, it's just very enjoyable, all of these, so I'll link them up and check them out.